Dehya is finally here, and as expected from our pre-release analysis of Dehya, her performance is based on what we could have guessed. Now either way, I do wish that any of you who love Dehya and have wanted to pull for her were able to get Dehya on your account. And if you guys have already been able to finish building your Dehya, then now is the time to start building her team comps. Which is why, as usual guys, today on the channel we will be looking in depth into some of Dehya's top 5 teams so that we have an idea of what kind of good team comp Dehya can actually run in. Now guys, there are a lot of other good characters coming in patch 3.5, and if you're still feeling that you're missing out on Primogems, then in collaboration with Paimon's Bargain, we are currently holding a 6,480 Primogems pack giveaway. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and join my Discord server to not miss out on this giveaway. I hope that by doing this, you have a better chance of getting the character that you want. So with that, let's just dive into the video. So first off, let's just talk about some of the most important points whenever you are having Dehya on your team. First things first, to actually just be blunt straight up, Dehya in terms of meta is probably the worst 5-star we have experienced to date because her power level is just too underwhelming. And everything that she is capable of doing has already been done and done better by a lot of other characters in Genshin Impact. And so all in all, to just simply put, Dehya is just a character that we have for fun, which I can at least confirm she is quite fun to play around with. Her skills as well as attack animation during her burst is pretty cool to look at. So if you enjoy having Dehya on your account, that is going to be the thing for you. But for most of us, it's definitely a skip on Dehya, at least until you lose your 50-50 from patch 3.6 onward and get Dehya. But either way, if you're using her on your account and is building a team for her, generally speaking, she wouldn't really be an on-field DPS or basically doing damage for you. But if you do want her to dish out damage, there are some teams that we'll be talking about later on, while you also basically have to be using the best support in Genshin Impact in order to back up Dehya's damage. On the other hand, her main role is definitely going to be a support character of your team, basically with resistance to interruption, a bit of pyro application here and there, damage reduction for your team, as well as a bit of off-field damage. Now the best in her kit, I would say, is going to be the resistance to interruption, in which is the thing that I actually found the most value out of Dehya, while the remaining of her ability, which is, pyro application, damage reduction, and more pyro off-field damage, isn't really that big of a deal. I found quite a bit of use towards her resistance to interruption and was able to build some team around it, because I can say that the help of her resistance to interruption is pretty good and basically do the job it is intended. But all in all, Dehya is not a replacement of a healer or a shielder in any way. You basically still need to have either of those role onto your team, because technically speaking, Dehya don't heal your team. Therefore, you're still going to be needing a healer spot. So overall guys, I would say that Dehya's role is just really weird. She's not exactly in a place of a damage dealer for your team, and whenever she finds a place to be utilizing her kits, she's already having other characters that's doing even better. So obviously many of the time we just don't have anything to justify the fact that we have her on the team, apart from the fact that we want her there and be playing around with Dehya. Hopefully in the future we're going to be having, artifacts buff for Dehya or any kind of things that would be able to help her use her ability a lot better. But for the time being, we just have to deal with the Dehya as she is currently. However, if we do decide to have Dehya on the team, then we're currently having a few teams that she can be running, and I would say it is pretty fun to play around with it. And so with that, let us talk about Dehya's team. First team, we have Dehya, Bennett, Kazuha, and Mona. I would say that this is basically the team that would be helping Dehya dish out the most of her damage, and technically the only team right now that is going to be helping her be an on-field character, or basically utilizing the most out of her burst damage, because we're basically having Bennett, Kazuha, and Mona here to focus fully on buffing Dehya's damage. Now if you actually have a C6 Bennett, it will be helping out this team a little bit, because Dehya is going to be on field a little bit longer during Bennett's burst, as her attack is now all converted to pyro. Dehya in this case is obviously going to be focusing on her damage, however most of the time it's going to be burst damage only. Then it's recommended to be running her as the 4-piece emblem set, because her energy recharge is pretty much going to be covered then, and also buffing a lot of her burst damage altogether. Mona of course is going to be the character that focusing on helping buffing Dehya's damage, so you kind of want to have her running a Thrilling Tales of Dragon as well as build her a lot to maximize her potential. This team I would say is pretty easy to run, and from my experience of testing it, the rotation is quite simple as well, because as long as you have your energy recharge enough, each of the character will be able to have their burst back pretty well. How the rotation is going to go is that first off you can cast Dehya's E, next is Kazuha's EQ so that he's War Pyro, after that it's going to be Bennett's EQ, and then Mona's EQ setting up switching back to Dehya using her burst. Now obviously since we're focusing everything on Dehya's burst, and her burst is only available for like 4 seconds, so this many of the time feels like a speedrun team. If you're not able to clear out most of everything within the first rotation, it's gonna be a bit longer before you're able to clear everything and get Dehya's burst back, because she does have quite a long time burst cooldown. Second team, we have Dehya, Nahida, Bennett, and Ayato, basically a Bersian team. You don't really have to run Ayato as a Hydro character here, because generally speaking I would say that any Hydro character would work here. You can have like Child or even Kokomi can work. The main point of this team is just going to be having Dehya running on a Bersian team. Nahida is obviously a very special and important character on this team, because of course it is Nahida, and hopefully if any of you haven't got your hands on Nahida on your account, next time when she is on rerun you will have the chance to get her. Bennett here is going to be fulfilling his usual role, and of course Ayato here to be doing his best in terms of triggering Bersian so that we get the most damage off, but also if you can, you want to cast his burst as much as possible, because together alongside with Dehya's E skill, you're basically going to be having a lot of off-field vaporized damage if everything goes correctly. How the rotation is going to go is that first off you can go with Nahida's EQ, to setting up Bennett's EQ, to casting Dehya's E, and then Ayato EQ. Third team, we have Dehya, Ganyu, Bennett, and Nahida. Basically the team that I feel Dehya is quite special being in, and one of the most functional team that would benefit of having Dehya's on. Now before the official release of Dehya, we kind of have a fear that she might not be able to work with Ganyu's melt that well. However, after some testing I would say that this team is quite viable, obviously not the best option, but having Dehya here to help with Ganyu's melt does work. Now the thing with Dehya is that since her E skill is only able to trigger once every 2.5 seconds, there's going to be the problem of Dehya actually triggering the melt other than Ganyu, and that does happen quite some time, but Ganyu herself is still able to do melt quite often, so that is actually a good thing. But on top of that, what I really like is that Dehya's resistance to interruption hopping does work, and if you're someone who don't really have like, you know, Zhongli on your account, then obviously Dehya is going to be a very good replacement for at least until you have, you know, Zhongli to replace her on your team. Ganyu running in this team, and I feel very comfortable having her on field just casually doing her charge attack and taking on enemies hit, because obviously Dehya still have that damage reduction for your team as well, so it does help with Ganyu's low bar HP a lot, and she can comfortably fire off a lot of her charge shot without being interrupted. Nahida and Bennett here is still going to be fulfilling their usual role, but also Nahida is going to be helping with burning reaction to help sustain your pyro application onto your enemies, so that Ganyu has a better chance of landing her melt charge shot. How the rotation is going to go is that first you cast off Nahida's EQ, to Bennett's EQ, to Dehya's E, and then to Ganyu's using her EQ to her charge attack. Fourth team, we have Dehya, Kokomi, Yae Miko, and Nahida. Now this team, we're going to be having a bit of fun doing a lot of different reactions from this team, and I myself having a good time using this team as well. Basically, we're going to be trying to fire off as many different kind of reaction as we can. There's going to be obviously Electro Charge, Hyper Bloom to aggravate, and Version here and there as well. This might not always be the most optimal team, but with a lot of different reaction going on, it's kind of fun to see having this team around. You don't really need Yae Miko here on this team. You can actually switch up with any other Electro character, like even Raiden Shogun will work and she can be the driver on field. Or if you don't, then Fischl is a good character to run as well. How the rotation is going to go is very simple. You first start off with Dehya's E to Nahida's EQ to Kokomi's E using her Thrilling Tales of Dragons, and then Yae Miko being on the field with Kokomi's Thrilling Tales buff. And then fifth team, we have Dehya, Bennett, Xiangling, and Kazuha, a specific mono pyro team. We don't usually see a mono pyro team because it's not that meta considered, but it's actually still a very viable team and a fun team to play at that, especially considering that a Cryo Abyss Lecter is going to be coming to the game very soon. So mono pyro team makes even more sense from there. Obviously guys, do remember that the Abyss change up very frequently, so having different team comp prepared is a good thing for you to do. Now obviously this specific mono comp works especially well because we already have 3 of the best support and sub DPS character in the game, as there is Kazuha, Bennett, and Xiangling. So even if we don't have Dehya here and only run a 3-man character team, that will still works perfectly well. But still, we're going to be having Dehya here to have some fun with her damage reduction as well as resistance interruption and a bit of off-field pyro damage. This team can still be utilized rather well. So how the rotation is going to go is that we first off start with Dehya's E to Kazuha's EQ for Pyro Swirl, and then Bennett's EQ and Xiangling's EQ. Very simple team to run, and don't really need to care too much about energy restoration because since we have a lot of Pyro character, they are just going to be taking care of themselves. So technically speaking guys, I feel that Dehya is not a must-have character, but when you have Dehya on your account, she can just technically be on any of the team as long as you want to have her on the team, as from her ability of damage reduction alongside with resistance interruption and pyro application, she can just be there to help out a little bit for your team. I know that there are a lot of other Dehya team that we can run her with, so guys, if you do have any other team recommendation, feel free to drop it down in the comment section, as I always love to see many different team comps here and there. So that's going to be my list of Dehya's current top teams. I hope that the video have been enjoyable for you. Now if you're someone who's still thinking about which character you should be pulling for in patch 3.5, then I have a very in-depth video going in that in terms of each of the characters and who should you be pulling for. So be sure to check out the video right here on screen, as I am sure it's going to be very helpful for you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to not miss out on our current giveaway. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, and with that I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.